Doom is probably one of the oldest franchises in the gaming industry, and there's gotta be a good reason it's still around today. The original Doom is a game I played nearly 30 years ago, and though I barely touched it, I still remember the impact it made on the gaming landscape with its early example of 3D graphics. With the franchise still kicking today, and a spin-off style sequel releasing soon, I figured it was a great opportunity to dive into this classic. So today, I'm going to figure out what it is exactly that keeps this game ripping and tearing. Alright, starting off with story. Let's be real, Doom 2016 isn't about some deep emotional narrative, exploring the human experience or dealing with personal tragedy. It's about going back to basics where games were made for some mindless murder and the slaying of demons, and that's exactly where it shines. Especially today, when every new game release has a story that spans 20 hours and requires you to focus to get the most out of the narrative. And don't get me wrong, those are actually normally my favourite types of games. But in a world where those deep, thought-provoking games represent a 3-course fine dining experience, Doom is a refreshing burger shake and fries combo that hits the right spot without the need for fancy dressing. Like, take the opening sequence for example. It sets the tone perfectly with no fuss, just straight up gore from the first second, and you know the exact experience you've just signed up for. Minimal fluff, maximum carnage. Now I do need to mention that though the game is fully focused on the action, there is a story here.
I believe in honesty.
It's actually not soulless and empty in that sense because the world and lore has been fleshed out. It's actually more in-depth than I expected, but it's definitely not going to change your worldview. The environmental storytelling and in-game pickups, notes and story moments are actually really cleverly done. It gives the player the option to dig through as much as they want or completely ignore it and skip straight to the murder. Which to me shows that the devs really just respect the player's time and attention. And like, it actually makes a lot of sense how it's been implemented, because it doesn't detract from the core gameplay loop and weigh things down. Having said that, it's not all mindless, and there are slower narrative focused moments built in to break things up and keep the player engaged, which it does really well. Graphics and art style. Now, even though this game probably isn't going to really test some of the beefier rigs, the graphics still hold up really well, like surprisingly well, and though I'm unsure how it performed at launch, the optimization today feels really solid. I don't remember seeing very much pop in, if any, and I don't think I've bumped into any bugs at all. I feel like it does make sense though, since the team at id Software have been working their magic for over 30 years at this point. And considering how fast and hectic the gameplay can be, it is an absolute necessity for them to ensure it runs well. A good deal of the heavy lifting is being done by that awesome lighting to be fair, but it's all been packaged together and optimized exceptionally well. Again though, the visuals look stunning, and even though if you pay really close attention you can tell it is an older game, it definitely still holds up today. In fact, I'd say the visuals are so impressive that the graphics are better than some more modern titles.
They promised me so much.
The art style is just awesome. The character models and designs both have this dirty, organic feel whilst also hosting a bunch of metallic and mechanical augments. The textures and design in general are really unique and impressive, especially considering the different environments and assets you'll come across. It just captures the feel of each of these areas and atmosphere so well. Like, there's organic matter mixed in with metal surfaces and rocky worlds spliced with mystical energies, yet it's all tied together phenomenally. It really helps to add that vibe and mystery to the world without it being that typical dark and poorly lit horror look that so many games rely heavily on. The creature design also matches that level of expertise. Like, considering a lot of these demons are updated versions of their originals, they've really managed to make them easily recognizable yet super detailed in their new incarnations. Now the audio. 2 words, Mick Gordon. It's absolutely thrilling. I was actually surprised because based on everything I heard coming in, I knew the music would be great, but I expected it to be straight up headbanger heavy metal. And it's actually very dynamic. I mean, I'm no audiophile, so maybe I'm using the wrong phrasing, but what I mean is there is a lot more character and nuance than one would expect. Like, there's flavour to the sound, it's not just noise mashed together with a high tempo, and I'm honestly really impressed. Like, obviously the gameplay of Doom means it will be hectic and intense, and the speed at which you move will be a key factor, but the music isn't just one track on a loop. The soundtrack in each level feels quite unique, and though I probably couldn't name any off the top of my head, I definitely appreciated how different each one felt, and it actually worked really well so as not to overshadow the core gameplay loop. The voice acting is really good, and though it's mostly augmented, it is well done. Like each time a voice is heard, it does really sell the story and world, but the enhancement felt a bit too much at times. Like, I'm not sure it's always necessary, and I think the game could have benefited from letting the voice actors breathe a little and do their thing. I mean, overall it's pretty awesome and does suit the whole experience, but when the voice actors are given the chance, I think they can sometimes have more impact on their own.
It seems to agree with you.
Like during the intro, for example, which was just super badass.
But you will be worse. Rip and tear until it is done.
I mean, considering the narrative, I understand the choice, but I would have liked to see them show off the raw, unfiltered talents of the voice actors. Something else worth mentioning though is the surprisingly satisfying sound design. This is not something I expected all that much coming in, but it really helps to heighten the experience that the gameplay is already delivering. The key word here though is satisfaction. I mean, each demon you pulverize or stomp on or bash, every single round you fire is weighty and feels good. Between the mix of the organic corpses being crushed and mechanical whirring or buzzing of your weapons, it all sounds great. It's such a highlight that I really didn't expect. Gameplay, the actual meat of the game. Firstly, I only played on Ultra Violence, and though I died a fair bit, it wasn't actually as hard as I thought it'd be. I was surprised to see how much exploration there actually was in this game, and as I progressed through, I really started to notice how much detail and thought was put into the creation of each level. Like, there's obviously going to be arena-like rooms with a lot of platforming and verticality, which makes for some chaotic combat, but it's also spaced out with slower moments too, where you can really explore the map and find secrets. Admittedly, this game didn't hook me right away, but I very quickly was just instinctively starting it up every chance I got, looking forward to that addictive combat loop. When the game gets you though, it really does. Like initially those nests had me hesitant at first, but after a few clears, it really hooks you, fulfilling that power fantasy of slaying hordes of enemies with reckless abandon. And speaking of enemies, the variety of each type you encounter also feels really unique, and there's even some boss fights thrown into the mix as well. Each boss also playing quite differently, which can be really hard to get right, especially in first-person shooters, but I think they've nailed it here. The game just has this way of making you feel absolutely monstrous, like the demons are the ones that should be afraid of you. And the mechanics themselves really lend themselves to that ideology, with the chainsaw adding depth and strategy, not only helping to mix things up, especially early on when you haven't unlocked all the weapons or their mods. It asks you to really consider when you need to replenish your ammo reserves without pausing and ensuring the exhilaration doesn't stop. The glory kill mechanic is also another cool concept. It's disgustingly gruesome and brilliantly bloody, and so deliciously satisfying when you execute each. It really encourages an aggressive playstyle in this high risk, high reward setup that's actually been balanced really well and helps to heighten that excitement. But it's clever, like it is a double-edged sword, because though you get iframes during the execution, you're not moving and your view is stifled, so it does require proper consideration before committing to each one. I think the biggest surprise for me though is that considering this genre generally has a focus on simple yet fast-paced combat, there is a surprising amount of progression, unlockables and upgrades. The game really rewards you for exploring every inch of the map with secrets or cells or drones or runes to be found that add a good amount of expansion to your already formidable arsenal. Most weapons can be modded down to different paths with multiple upgrades which can change your playstyle. The suit itself also has a decent number of upgrades, including extending the time of power-ups or making you immune to barrel damage altogether. There's also rune upgrades that give additional perks, and these Argent cells that give you a straight up boost to health, armor, or ammo. All of it actually adds a heck of a lot of unique builds and combat options and replayability. id Software have managed to reinvigorate an old formula and add depth where there wasn't any before. It's actually really impressive.
Our time is up.
Okay, in summary, the signature visuals may intrigue you, but if you give this game a try, I'm certain that the amazing gameplay and killer soundtrack will hook you. The combination of adrenaline pumping music and that high octane gameplay loop will have you looking forward to each new arena and demanding more. There's really not many games that can give you the satisfaction that Doom can when it comes to demonic murder. Doom 2016 is an absolutely amazing experience even today. This game now has me pretty keen to check out Doom Eternal, and funnily enough, I'm keen to learn more about the story and lore, especially behind the Slayer. And don't forget, Doom the Dark Ages is also around the corner.
Carefully release the hinges.
If you've managed to sit through this whole video, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to let me know what else you'd like to see in the comments. Hopefully, I'll catch you in the next one.